Hello, everybody. Welcome to Success Defined. I'm Ben McDonald, and today we have two great guests here in Savannah, Georgia. The first is Ruel Joyner. Ruel is the founder and CEO of 24E Design, and they create furnishings and interiors, along with a lot more that we'll get into here in a little bit. And we have Michael Owens, who is the CEO of the Tourism Leadership Council and the chair of the Georgia Travel Organization, along with a plethora of other things. That same thing we're going to dive into in a little bit. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks.
So I want to start with the actual location where we are here today. So we're on 24 East Broughton, which is where your business is located. Let's talk about the importance of this location first.
Well, it's I think it's a narrative that we all know. It's small business, it's family business, it's on Main Street, and it is a lot that that we're very proud of our heritage, of our city, of our community, and this is our flagship in a way that our business is transforming along with the times. We design, we build some, we import a lot of our own designs, things that are unique to us, and we are building revenue channels through this flagship store and also through furniture markets, to where we're not only selling to the end user, to furniture stores, to other designers, hospitality projects. We're building a brand. That is the vision.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Michael, I want to jump over to you for a little bit. So Savannah, we were talking a little bit earlier, Savannah has about 140,000 residents, right? But the traffic that comes through Savannah is obviously dramatically more.
Sure.
You said there's about 14 million?
14 million visitors here annually. Not tourists, visitors. So that's anybody who doesn't live here that's coming or hopefully spending a little bit of money while they're here.
Yeah, that makes sense. People like myself come down, family is in the area, so I come down and I do business in the area now because of that. So you get people that come through all the time. How has that changed and evolved your business here at 24E?
Well, traditionally, we were a business that was pretty much just locals only. Back when my father started this business, this corridor that we were in, it was probably about 80% unoccupied. You could literally shoot a cannon down the street and probably not hit anyone. There was a lot of vacancies. There was a lot of things that needed to be done. Over the years, that's transformed, especially with the success of the Savannah College of Art and Design, the success of our forefathers before us that realized that we need to preserve the architectural spirit of this place, the design that Oglethorpe had put together, and because of that, Savannah's special. It's a small town that has a lot of big town amenities, but the beauty of European cities. It's walkable, and it is something unique that's within our country that's really striking a tone. And it's Savannah sexy now. We're being talked about through all the different travel organizations, to articles, periodicals, and it's a good time to be here.
Yeah.
It sort of underscores how recent all of this is. You mentioned that when your dad came here and started the store, it was 80, Broad Street was about 80% vacant. When the Marshall House, which is across the street from this location, was purchased in 99, Broad Street was 80% vacant. So that was 1999. That was yesterday for a lot of us. And so a lot of this economic activity that you see, us being a regional hub for commerce now on the coast, really is new by any stretch of measure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And how has that evolved on such a quick rate, right? Like you said, just yesterday, compared to 14 million visitors, that's a large number that you guys as a city are handling on a constant basis. You're serving them, and you've been able to, right? If people flooded in here and the city wasn't ready for it or didn't give them a good experience.
Well, I think it's a lot like entrepreneurship. You can plan for it, but that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. So we've had a lot of luxury issues or luxury problems, but it's been an evolving thing, and through our community and leadership, we've been working through it. And Savannah is just but it's the really cool thing about it is I don't think the guiding principles have changed. It's to preserve the architecture, to preserve the livability. And we're a big experiment here. There's 14 million people.
And I think part of that is and you keyed on it a little bit, is continuity of vision. And think about sort of those rising tides that have floated the boats of Savannah. SCAD is a substantial factor there. Tourism as an industry is a substantial factor there. The Georgia Port Authority is a substantial. We look at all of these substantial factors, and we've had continuity of leadership there for a long time. The people who built the tourism industry to what we appreciate today are still here, and they're still in positions of leadership. President Paula Wallace over at SCAD, now celebrating their 40th year. It's her same vision. It's the same. It's evolved over time, certainly, but her core values of what she wanted to bring to this town and what the town would bring to the college, that's maintained.
This is one lady and her family, worked to make this tiny school, Savannah College of Art and Design, to a world brand. I mean, right. President Wallace is like Oprah now, with her vision, and you can walk outside on the Broughton Street and hear 5 different languages.
That's right.
And there's people from all over the world that are coming here, sending their kids here, investing in Savannah. I mean, they've got campuses in Lacoste, they've got campuses in Hong Kong, Atlanta, and it all started right here.
Well, and something that's really, here's a little bit of Savannah trivia. There are 2 statues on City Hall. City Hall with the gold dome, it's iconic for Savannah, beautiful building. There are 2 statues, and do you remember what the statues are called?
Yeah.
Commerce and art, right?
Yep.
It's these 2 things, and that's part of I think, sort of the secret sauce of what makes Savannah tick. There's a great appreciation for both, and we know that they go hand in hand. And it's a symbiosis. You can't have success in one without the other, or you can't have enjoyment in life without both.
Right. And it seems like it's, from what you guys are both saying, it's been the foundation for the city, for what your values and vision are, and you've been able to maintain that focus on what's been most important. That's right. For you guys as individuals, but also for the city as a whole.
Well, going back to like what Michael was saying with those 2 things, even within the city, from a lot of folks that live in our community. It was just a few little ladies that started the Historic Savannah Foundation. They knew that they did not want to push over all these buildings. So they said, hey, stop. And then a lot of the people in the business community as well said, you know what, they're right. You need to stop this, because this is what makes this place beautiful. It's what makes it special. You got to strike that balance. And so through that evolution and through these, partners, you have something here that's just really different, really special.
That's right. So let's talk on the commerce side of those 2 a little bit right now. On your entrepreneurship journey, how did you first get that entrepreneur bug? How did you start?
Oh, that's easy. My dad.
Yeah,
no doubt. He was a military man, but he always loved numbers. He loved the hustle. And so he was always somebody that I looked up to, and still today. You can't run from it. When you grow up around that, you're in it whether you like it or not.
It's definitely in your blood.
Yeah.
It's definitely in your blood.
Yeah. What's that like? So we were talking earlier, I was in a similar spot, right? You grow up with a father that runs a business. What's that like growing up in that environment? How does that shape you for the future?
Well, to me at least, it was more rich than any school I could have attended. He was always there for the failures, always there for the successes. But to say business was in our blood was an understatement. My dad worked relentlessly, probably more than I would like, and you try to change a little bit of that, but it's still a grind. But my kids, they come in here. In fact, they were in here yesterday. They love to come in here. I got my 8-year-old. She'll set up like her little art and try start selling art in there, and which is just so adorable. But you already see the wheels turning. You already see that they get it, and she's even now started her own little YouTube channel where she's talking about these different toys or whatever she's reviewing, and then she talks about, hey, I got merch coming out soon. Merch. This is from an 8-year-old, and so the way that the tectonic plates about how we're all the way we consume things, the way that we're learning about things is shifting, it's changing. And so when an 8 or 9-year-old child can go onto YouTube or to a social media platform and talk about the things that they're interested in, and then also talk, sell merch, that's a different day.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And then Michael, on your side, you have leadership capacities throughout the city, right? Like I mentioned a couple of them at the beginning. With leadership comes time commitment, comes responsibility, things like that. What gave you that desire to go after being in a leadership position?
Well, it sort of happened to me. I believe that there is such a thing as reluctant leadership. I think those that aspire to do better, or better for others, or help, or be a part of that process for improvement, whether it be community-wide or in smaller circles. Somebody good at it respects the responsibility of that. I always look for those people who aren't interested in being in the limelight, that are pulled into. And I think it shows a virtue. For our industry, which every bit of success I have came from tourism and hospitality, it touches in our community 1 in 7 citizens' lives. 1 in 7 is employed in my industry. That's the largest segment. We're the largest employer in this community. There's very little that could go on that wouldn't touch our community in some way, the tourism community in some way, whether positively or negatively. And if there is a negative influence on our industry, we're talking serious employment issues. It's the one of the lifebloods of this economy. So, in the role of working for the industry itself and for those stakeholders in the industry, I'm given a lot of latitude to go get involved in things that we think we can make a positive impact on it. Now, sometimes that means for something, sometimes it means it's against something. It depends on the particular situation, but Ruel talked about sort of the building blocks, the plan, the Overport plan.
Yeah.
We're America's first planned city, right? I mean, including a municipal plan. This is where things will work in squares. The grid system that we use was not done accidentally, it was on purpose. Those are the building blocks for success that we're appreciating today. We're always cognizant of it, and we're looking for those building blocks and how do we add to it. Those building blocks, the building blocks of the community here, and I mean the individual players, has built a very, very strong industry. There's a saying in my industry that if you build a city for tourists, no one will want to come. But if you build a city for residents who will have high quality of life and a great amount of enjoyment, visitors will come.
Well, I think
that's part of our vision here.
I think that's right at the start why you differentiated. I think I used the word tourist, and you corrected me and said visitors.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really, really respect about Michael. And he brought it up a second ago about the latitude that he's given, with his organization and the causes that he puts, or guides or works with or whatever. The title of the Tourism Leadership Council is misleading in a way that he is, building these things on stuff that works for the entire community. And I think that his organization and with the vision and the way that, he works with it as well, he understands what's good for the community is also good for the visitors. And there is that balance that he strikes, and with the organization as well, it's about, quality of life. And he's the chairman of the police memorial organization, and there's all these things that are outside of what you would traditionally think is the Tourism Leadership Council.
Yeah.
And that's the type of leadership that we've got around here.
Say, that's a sign of great leadership.
Yeah,
right? Is being able to
absolutely. I work off of a couple of easy premises. Not everything good for tourism is good for the community. Conversely, everything good for a community is good for tourism. Every bit of it. If quality of life, reduced traffic, you name the little issues that any thriving community has to deal with. If you can improve upon those things, you'll improve everything else. It's those basics.
Yeah. Well, and you come to the city too, and like my first time coming down, for example, the city is clean. There's always things going on. There's just stuff that the people living here are going to want and need, right? You're not going to want a dirty city. You're not going to want things all over the place. And visitors are going to be able to benefit the same way that the people, the natives of this city are experiencing every single day.
That's right.
So let's pivot to 24E for a little bit, because we're talking lifeblood of the city, the commerce and the art. So talk about the evolution of you starting this business and being able to really grow this into an international organization.
Well, first I want to start off by saying that I'm standing on the shoulders of my father and my mother and my grandmother. And, I would not even be here in that capacity without them. But, once again, when my father fell ill, came home and he was like, hey, this is what I need you to do. Mm-hmm. So there's a strong sense of pride with that, and having grown up here, and, every day that I'm here, we're a representation of our family. And to be quite honest with you, we could have done this probably a little easier in Miami or Atlanta or some other places, but that's not home. Right. And quite frankly, that's what makes Savannah, what it is. We have this history of maritime. We have this history of the architecture. You have all this great history that's here. And, the evolution of what this business was and what it is now. Before, my father was doing rent to own, and that's what was down here at the core of the city. Okay. And as that changed, and when I took over, I told him, I was like, Dad, look, I'll be glad to do this, but not in that way. I've always been into architecture, been into design, brand. I enjoy those things. So we took in fact, he was humbled by his sickness, which was going on. So he was like, whatever, you can do whatever you want, just take care of your mom. But at the same time too, he had that faith in me, and that trust and that faith is the building block of what is here. And when I first told him the name and what we were, how I was changing the name to 24E, he's like, what is that? It's like, it's the address. He goes, oh, I know it's the address. How's that the name? And, and it was, and there was a little pushback with that. And then when we started doing what we were doing, and my father was, he really thought it would never work. And I think sort of the turning point with him was when we got signed up with Inc. 500 and started going around doing their conferences. And, we were sort of, it was funny because Inc. started calling us the fine furniture purveyors of the Fast 500. And, and I think it was really there that it clicked with him. He's like, God, well, they're loading up stuff and going to Chicago, going to, he must be doing something right. And it was working. And so that was the evolution of that. And there's been another evolution. We're a single family, a small business, and I was noticing too, like what we were doing in the age of the internet, a lot of the stuff that we were cataloging, people would come and they would sit on it here and then go and buy it online or wherever they were from in order to, not have to have it shipped from here, or they weren't able, or they wouldn't want to at the time. And then not only that, we've really gotten to a lot of custom stuff with interior design, and found some certain things that weren't in the marketplace, and it sort of scratched a creative itch for me as well, because at the end of the day, we love to create. Right. And the money,
it's always fresh.
Yeah. Well,
it's always fresh.
Thank you. And the money is a byproduct. But I knew that we had to, if we were going to do what we wanted to do, and we had to be differentiated in a way that when you had 14 million visitors that came into Savannah, that if they sat on something, they were going to either have to buy it from me or somebody that was buying it from me.
Got it.
And so that sort of started a lot of the custom. We, at one point we were building these swings out of like my garage. I had a Saturday that we sold nine of them. And so, ended up going over to India and China, and found a place in India. We started buying 200 of them at a time. And then, of course, buying 200 of them at a time, you then have to find the revenue channels in order to get them moved. Right. And so, we really built a value proposition in with that and started scaling the quantities. And that's sort of where we're at, and still muscling through that. And there's been nothing pretty about it. I mean, it is messy, it is scary, but it's what entrepreneurs do every day. You know, we don't live in a world that can allow us to just sit back and do nothing, because, you know, in this age, things are fast moving, and you got to be first to market, or you got to have a great value proposition, or whatever it is. But one thing, you know, that as an entrepreneur you don't want to do is wait. Anyone that waits, you're going to continue to wait.
Right.
And so that's been the evolution. But with that, you know, we're a small family furniture business on Main Street that ships 75 to 80% of what we sell all over, with clients from Miley Cyrus to David Copperfield to your neighbor. And we have to provide a value proposition to them and a reason for them to want to come back to Savannah and buy the stuff, or go online and buy the stuff.
Yeah.
So
We prefer they do it in person.
yeah, but anyway around, you know, it was being able to take that leap and figure out that scale, and figure out something to where, you know, we were not just being a middleman commodity store that was going to get gobbled up by an Amazon.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time. They're like, "Well, how do you deal with Amazon?" I don't go into a bar fight, you know, with or into a gunfight with a knife. I had to get differentiated. I had to. You have to jump out of a plane if you're going to skydive.
When did you first make that realization of your competitive advantage was being different, being better in what you did, versus just trying to be another furniture company?
Wow, that's a great question. And if you want me to be brutally honest, I will. We had done a design for a local media group here that was setting up a sound stage, and man, we did all this work for them. Oh my God, it was months worth of interior design work, and they went and found our supplier, and went and like beat us out of the price by like 20%, and we didn't charge for the interiors or any of this, and our supplier really did not even mean to do it, and they did it. And I mean, it was months worth of work. And, you know, we were the people that went in there, did all the measuring, all the work, all of this. And this one, you know, guy that obviously did not have any respect toward what we were doing,
Right.
you know, went around us and did that. But you know what? That is the way the world is. You have to understand that. And this guy was looking to get, you know, make a few percentage points off of it, didn't care about the any of the time or the, you know, all of the work that we had put into this. And he went around us for a few points, and that is the way the world is. And you know who has to react to that is the entrepreneur. And so, you know, other whether it's a furniture store or people that we sell to, you know, if there's someone that's in their area or whatever, if they're investing in us, we make sure that we don't sell to anyone else around their area. Their success is our success. And so I learned a lot of stuff through that, to have empathy toward the people that are investing in the bricks and mortars, the people that are investing in their salespeople that are on the floor. And, you know, I really do think that one of the competitive advantages that we have with this new business that we're going into is that first and foremost, we were retailers. And, you know, the quick, short money that you make off of other people's back is not is not what's worth it to invest in quality partners.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, and that experience, that lesson,
Oh yeah, it was
drove you to reshape how you went about business.
And you know what? I didn't even get mad about it. I didn't hold a grudge about it. I really didn't. It was a learning moment, and luckily it was earlier on in my life, but I knew then, it's like, you know, hey, I've got to find a way for us to be competitive to where I'm just not on this hamster wheel. And there was another epiphany moment for me too. We were working with an amazing company that was domestic, that we, you know, were doing helping with research and design, and I kept telling them that, you know, we were also retailers for their product, and we needed to get some dining chairs that were better looking than what we had. The dining chairs that they were manufacturing for us, they were expensive, and quite honestly, they were ugly. And I told them, I was like, look, you know, we need to be able to find a better offering of this so we can bring it back to market and be competitive. and they told me, they said, well, Ruel, you know, there's a certain sector of the community that makes these frames for us, and they'll build them for us 5 at a time, and you know, and this other work is not really what they do, so we got to keep it this way. And I said, you know, you've heard of Thomas Friedman in his book, you know, the world is flat, hot, and crowded. And you know, it's like, look, send me to China or India or whatever. I'll go and find us the frames. We can bring them back and we can upholster them here in the U.S. But we need to find a way to be competitive. We can't be ugly and expensive. And you know, they didn't want to do it. And that was one of the big aha moments, that literally went and got on a plane a couple weeks later and started going overseas and trying to figure out ways that I could be more competitive, that I could, you know, bring the small family business back into a larger scale, to where I could bring back stuff that I thought would reflect, you know, would be my designs, that would make us different, and be able to sell it to other people affordably.
I want you to know that he sold my wife those ugly dining chairs.
I want to pivot the conversation a little bit, Michael, to you on the leadership standpoint. So, what are the things that are most important to you when you're dealing with people on your team, in your organizations, things like that? What are those most important, either leadership qualities that you have, or things that you need to get across to your people, things like that?
Well, that opens up a big one. Easy first one, and it has to be the primary one, is integrity. Period. There's nothing is more important than integrity. You have to be honest. That doesn't mean you have to tell everybody everything. There are some things you hold on to wait to see how things factor. But never lie. Never lead somebody knowingly down the wrong direction. You have to be reliable on that. And the little things are what create that, right? When somebody tells you, hey, I need to tell you something, but I need to keep it in confidence, you better. And if you can't do that, you won't succeed.
Because you burn trust then.
Yeah, trust. Integrity begets trust. Integrity and trust beget people following you when you need them to go someplace with you, to go accomplish a big thing, or for people to dig in. There are tiny little instances that create that. If you can't move people in a direction, even when sometimes they don't necessarily understand what you're trying to do quite yet, but they trust you, and they trust your quality, then they'll follow you. And there's lots of examples in our professional career, RIFRA being one of those things where, you know, it's, well, I don't know why this is important, but he says it is, so let's go.
He tells me to jump off of a building, I'll probably do it, and then ask him later.
Yeah, we're gonna work on that. Too trusting is also a hazard. Second is communication, and understanding what that responsibility is for communication. If you're in a leadership role, it's your responsibility to figure out how to communicate effectively. People react differently. Some people are visual, or some people are auditory, so on and so forth. There's a story when I was coming up in the hotel business. I had this really, really terrific team member who couldn't understand a fundamental part of our business, and she kept making the mistakes. And we talked about it, and she was just a phenomenal associate. And so finally, after the 5th conversation about the same exact issue of how not to make this mistake again, my assistant walked in to this scene. So the associate is sitting across from my desk. I am standing on my desk, hopping on one leg, hopping in a circle on my desk. And my assistant walked in and looked and said, okay, and then just left. And I finished the conversation with the associate, and my assistant grabbed me later and just says, you want to explain what the hell that was all about? And I said, God is my witness, she will never forget that conversation again. She will never, ever, ever forget. And there was a lesson in that, right? I talked to the team member, I couldn't get her to understand, so I had to do something different to get their attention. So I realized at that point, or just shortly before I started hopping on my desk like an idiot, that it was my responsibility. It was incumbent on me to figure out the best way to communicate so the person understood, and then move forward. I think that's getting harder in this world, communication.
Why do you say that?
Well, we are more text-based. We are definitely shorter communication, missing context, missing subtleties, text-based messages, emails.
So more quality. quality.
Yeah, we got quantity, no problem,
Mhm.
right? There's plenty of communication. It's the quality of the communication that goes. I like texting just like anybody else does, and emails are easy as well. None of them have made life any easier, by the way. That was a big lie we were all sold. But nothing replaces that in-person conversation. Someone can see in a conversation hesitancy or distrust, or you better know where the person you're communicating really is with the information you're giving. Whether they really believe you or don't, what you'll understand if you need to put more work into the communication when you do it in person. You have to be able to communicate in all those ways, but nothing replaces that in person, the nonverbals that go with communication in person. And we're getting less and less to where that's the thing. And we see that sort of, look at commerce in general. Ask anybody on the street if they think customer service has gotten better in the last 5, 10, 15 years or worse.
Ask anybody if they're willing to pay for it.
Right, well, that's another really good point. That's a really, really good point. I don't think we're evolving as great communicators. I think, in fact, we're going the other way. And that's something we've got to be really cognizant of.
I totally agree. You nailed it. And two, people now think that everything is free. From whether it's free shipping to free whatever, there are costs. And two, when I think also with that that communication barrier, everybody is ready to just jump on the horn about someone else's, fault or how they screwed up or whatever, but they're not ready to go in there and commend someone when they're ready. And so you've got a world of just people that are complaining, and then you've got also a sliver of folks that are continuing to drive that, the positive aspects and how things are. I think they are changing for the better, because I think in a way that you have the story of upward mobility. You have now in your power, in your grasp, the ways to communicate to the world like never before. Instantly. Right. Now that could be a problem, as we've seen.
Filter.
Yeah, but it is those possibilities there, and how that's changed is unbelievable. And that's why too, I think now that, just like with us and our brand, we're telling our story, and we don't have to be everything to everyone. But if we communicate it well, and we have that integrity, or we have that authenticity, no matter the acne that's on that or whatever, you'll find those people that it'll resonate with. And the others, you know what? Have a nice day.
You mentioned your wife.
Oh yeah, well, there's that. My wife is unbelievable. She's she's got her degree in fashion and visual merchandising, and yes, and honestly, a lot of it, the driving force behind our aesthetic and everything else is her. I'm married way above my pay grade, and she's actually an incredible mother as well. But she's things that I've had to work hard to figure out in this business, she naturally knows.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's amazing.
What capacity does she have in the business?
Right now, she's really been, just the most amazing mother in the world.
Okay.
But both of my children are getting that age, and I think she's getting to where too that she's ready to get back in here.
Okay.
Which, at the end of the day, we have to keep mama happy. And so, whether she's working in here or she's working at home or whatever she wants to do is cool with me. But
You'll find a lot of her stuff in here.
yeah, oh yeah. But she's an artist. She does interior design to fashion, and she, like I said, some people have to learn, and then some people just naturally know. She's when it comes to this type of thing, she is really a duck in water.
Well,
it's in her genetics.
It must be pretty convenient being able to go home and have those conversations too. So, like, my wife runs a business and I run a couple of businesses, and they're not the same. You go home and you have those conversations. So, with her being so natural in this type of environment and world, it's got to be great to be able to go home and pick her brain and talk about what's going on and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good synergy that we got together, especially, she'll call me on my stuff. Like, we have a very masculine edge to what we do, and it's not traditional. And sometimes she's like, "Hey, Roy, you need to pull that back a little bit, or keep charging or whatever." And I trust her 100%. So yeah, it's a good marriage.
For the best advice I could give anyone under any blanket circumstances, and you and I did it at different times, marry someone smarter than you.
Yeah,
I did. You did.
yeah.
And it's the most important thing in my life, whether it's raising family, kids, the things that really matter in life. Right? The greatest responsibility you'll ever have is to your family. But for me, in the same way that you can do it, I rely on my wife professionally. She's when she walks in the room, she's the smartest person in the room. I've never been in a room that hasn't been true. I can talk to her about complex political situations, and she has this extraordinary ability to bring it down to really the linchpin, the single most important point that most people, including myself, had missed entirely. After many years of marriage, I am still in awe of her intelligence. Truly shocked sometimes at the dinner table talking about something going on politically, locally or nationally, and she'll just spout this, incredible thing, and I get really quiet. I think she's thinking that I'm disagreeing but not saying anything, and the truth of it is I'm just in absolute awe.
You're just soaking it in.
She's beyond brilliant, and she'll probably never know how much I rely on that brilliance.
I imagine he's going to give her a link to this podcast.
I was going to say, she'll
She'll
get an email.
She'll be so impressed by it. That's your wife does the same thing mine does. Really good at keeping us grounded.
Yeah.
Right. Anytime I'm getting a little too big for my britches, which happens about weekly, she's really good at just knocking me right up. I remember writing a really important document in my world that was going to be broadcast in political circles about a very strong position we were taking. And I went through 8 or 9 drafts. You were a part of that. I went through about 8 or 9 drafts, and I gave it to her to read about the 5th draft. And she looked at me and she says, "Yeah, this isn't the Constitution, and you're not Hamilton. Bring it down a notch." And then I gave it to my buddy Ruel, in hopes that someone would see the brilliance of this. And he looked at it, and he looked at me and said, "You can do better than this. This is not very good." It got rewritten that day.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why there were 8 or 9 copies instead of 5.
Right. That's exactly right.
I want to talk about community involvement a little bit, because obviously, so you're leading organizations within the community, and you as a business owner and a business leader in the community have taken time away from your business to really get involved in Savannah itself. So let's start.
That is an understatement.
I know, and that's basically saying that to get you into this part of the conversation. Talk about first the importance of that. Why is being a part of Savannah itself it's so important to you?
It's my home. I grew up here, and I think most of all too, because I see it's not just the opportunity, but I see the potential. And Savannah is just really unique in the way that it really punches over its weight, and the things that we do naturally and the infrastructure that's already here you can't duplicate it.
Right.
And so when from the historic preservation to the people, the community in Savannah is like so proud of this place. And and there's a lot of folks too that there's a lot of vocal naysayers, but it takes all of those in order to make this gumbo, which is Savannah. It's a very diverse community with with a lot of heritage, and you just start scratching the surface of the people that have come out here or the things that have gone on here, it will blow your mind. And when people hear Savannah, they think of this huge metropolitan. It's Mayberry. It is Mayberry, and to me, it's amazing, especially growing up here and having the privilege to still live here. It's awesome.
I would refine that a little bit for you. You're really, really bad at apathy.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
a driver for you. You're really bad at it. And thank God, because we this community has done better because you're really bad at apathy. I've watched it. You don't let it go, right? If you see something that shouldn't be, you'll get involved. If you see something that should be but isn't, you've never allowed anybody to say, well, we tried that years ago and it didn't work. You've never allowed for the excuse of well, it's too hard, it's too difficult, it's impossible. Your salesman comes out, but the core of it is you're bad at apathy.
That's the entrepreneurial mindset,
yeah,
right?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So that really hit on something that I was going to follow up with, because the way you were talking was great and almost idealistic, right? Like how great Savannah is and you want to be a part of it. But running an international business takes a ton of time and effort, and you have family that you devote your time and effort into also. So to be able to carve out additional time to have such high roles and impact on Savannah itself, you really hit on exactly what I was going to go into of why are you willing to not step away, but take additional time away from family and business in order to be a part of Savannah itself?
Look, that's a great question, and if you want to be brutally honest, which I'm good at that too, I think my family has suffered.
Okay.
I think there has been times when now it's not games or anything that's just so pivotal, that's huge for me.
Okay.
I don't miss a kid's game.
Yeah.
If they ask me to do something in that way or whatever, I'm there. But I think the one thing as a father, and at least the way that I saw my father growing up, that I knew my role.
Okay.
And I take it very seriously. Your kids and your family and everything else, they have a burn rate. And they can be resentful to you for not having spent enough time. And you know what? Time is irreplaceable. But at the end of the day, you got to provide. And my father, he always knew his role. And there's times too that I wish that Daddy would spend a little bit more time with me with doing whatever.
Yeah.
But I knew that, I knew where he was. And I knew that I could always be around him if I wasn't in school or whatever, which I did. Spent a ton of time in here. Yeah. And that's where I think I picked a lot of this up. But I know my role. And I know as well that going back to community, if not me, then who?
Okay.
It's about responsibility. And not all the time are your local leaders or anyone elected or whatever, are they going to do exactly what you think or want or wish or whatever. A lot of those folks, God bless them for doing it too, they're at the whim of a vote. They're lucky if 51% of the people appreciate what they do.
Well, they become risk averse in that.
They certainly do. And you know what? I don't live by those rules. That's the 51% or whatever. But I do think that it's incumbent upon me living here, loving this place, and caring about my kids, caring about my family, that they have opportunities, that they live in a safe environment, that they have the same opportunity that I have. And my father, he did that with the United States military. He spent 26 and a half years in there for our country. Right. Whatever I do today in this city is going to pale with whatever he's already done. And I owe that.
Interesting. It's really interesting. Michael, from your standpoint, it's your entire career, right? Is being involved in community, building up the community, creating the best environment you can do. Why pursue that for an actual career? What led you into there?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
How much time do I have?
No, it's
Man, this podcast is something else.
really good. First of all, my lawyer's going to come and do it. I've always believed in something bigger than myself. There's, and by the way, our society is kind of built around that, or was at one point, God, country, so on and so forth, right? I mean, you used to, when you went to school, you started when I was a kid, you started your day with a pledge and a prayer, which is a physical manifestation that there's something greater than you. And I've been my entire life in tourism and hospitality, which is always about serving somebody else. You're never, no matter what position you are in the industry, no matter what it is, it's never about you. It's always about somebody else. It's about that guest. I'm terrible at birthdays because I have no idea what the hell to do when people are singing happy birthday to me, because it's the focal point of you.
What do I do with my hands?
With my hands. Awkward. There's, for everybody in this world, there's something greater than you, the individual. And that's just a core tenet that I believe in. I mean, I think in terms of service, selfless service, and it's all about something greater than yourself. If you think you're the most important person in this world, then you're out of your mind. You're just out of your mind. It is about creating a place where success defined is being content with what you have, but not content with the world around you.
Wow.
And it's well said.
I have.
That's a tea towel.
That's an inside joke there. I have everything that I need in life for me. I really do. And by the way, some luxury stuff too, right? I have nice things that I've worked hard for or that I care about. I care about a really good guitar, and a real high quality guitar. And there's not a lot of other things that I put that much focus into the quality. I have an incredible family. I have great friends and Ruel. But I have enough contentment with what I have in this world, what I work for in this world, and what's been given to me in this world, that I can not be content with the world around me and try to make little changes there to make things a little bit better. So, and I wanted to go back into something that you said, because I think it's really important. You were talking about how do you do it with all the time and so on and so forth. And yes, by the way, something always suffers. Family suffers, sometimes business suffers. Hopefully, if you're doing it right, everything suffers a little bit, and not one thing is beaten on. But I'd like to make this point about time, because it was told to me when it was coming up by somebody that I respected greatly, and it was probably the greatest life lesson I was ever given. And it was that time is the great equalizer for all of humankind. No matter where you are, where you're from, what you believe in, what you look like, what you feel, everybody in our world is given 24 hours in a day. It's what you do with that 24 hours that'll make the largest impact of what happens next in your life. Life is not something that happens to you, it's something that you go do. We have to carve out about 8 hours a day for sleeping, sometimes less, sometimes more. But then, if 8 hours is spent sleeping and 8 hours is to your vocation, and then 8 hours is hanging out or being in a bar, I'm not saying there isn't a time and a place for that, but if that's your other third of the day, then I'm worried about what your future looks like if you want one that is quote unquote successful. You have to be improving yourself. I think one of the ways that Ruel manages that is you won't often find Ruel or me or our close friends in front of TV screens or anything else like that. We'd rather learn, read, experience, so on and so forth. But we should never forget that the great equalizer is time. We all have the same amount at the end of the day. If you use it to the best of your ability to improve yourself and then improve the world around you.
Well, you see what's most important to people by their actions, right? So what are they doing? Are they watching Netflix for 5 hours, or are they helping themselves grow, or are they spending time with their families, things like that? So
I think the obvious caveat there is Game of Thrones, right?
There can be exceptions.
Yeah, it's got to be everything in moderation, including moderation.
So I want to stick with you for a second, Michael, to build off what you were talking about with how you define success in your life, things like that. What is your vision in your life? Kind of the balance, not necessarily balance, but combining personal and professional. What's the vision for your future?
I have absolutely no idea. I'm one of those people that loves what he does, and I really do. It's the most challenging thing I've ever done. It's frustrating. There are a lot of losses and a couple of good wins. It's always worth it. It's always, the battle is always worth it. I could do this for the rest of my life and feel very fulfilled. I think that the people I work with and together we've made differences big and small in this community. For some people it's been huge. We've been the difference of somebody actually making a business and making it go, and not at all. We've jumped in to help people who had hit a wall financially or some governmental issue that they couldn't carry on. There's a couple of those small wins on the grand scheme of things are the most important to me. That's the difference in someone's livelihood and their children going to school. And I mean, those are profound impacts. I always want to be a part of a group that's working to make things better. There's a saying about it: never underestimate what a small group of people can do to change the world, because it's the only thing that ever happens. That's where I want to be. I want to be in that group, and sometimes I'll lead that group, and a lot of times, more times than lead, I'll follow, because there's a lot of, if you surround yourself by brilliant people, it's a good trait to know when to lead and when to follow, and I hope I always do that. Sometimes Ruel takes the charge up the hill, and I follow right up behind him, and vice versa sometimes. My vision is, again, to never be content with the world around me, but to appreciate everything that I've got.
That's great. Ruel, I want to throw the same question.
How do you follow that?
Yeah, so we're going to start with something before. Now, I do want to hit on something before we get into some of these more philosophical. From your business standpoint, what are one or two of those pain points that you're experiencing currently in your business?
I think for most people it is change. I think I'm pretty comfortable with change. I think the parts of things that I really can't, that are most painful is the stuff you just can't control.
Okay.
And no matter how you plan for it or what you do, it's just out of your control.
Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with that? Because everyone experiences that.
You show up.
So.
You show up, you put one foot in front of the other, and you continue to lead. And sometimes it's the hardest thing to do, but that's how it starts. And just keep showing up. Don't quit, because that's what a lot of people want you to do. And I'm all about some team underdog, and I love to prove people wrong, and not necessarily push their nose in it, but that's it's a point of pride. And no matter what, I just try to keep showing up.
Interesting. I think that's a hurdle that a lot of people struggle with, especially entrepreneurs. Right?
And
you try and control everything.
It can be debilitating.
Yeah.
There's General Honore when he went into New Orleans, and the place was just falling apart. There
Still is.
Yeah. Well, you had the National Guard there with guns pointed at Americans, and he went in. He told them to put their guns down, and he started making things happen. He told people, he says, "Look, you're looking at your calendar. I'm looking at my watch." He restored order. And, that to me, that's a leader. That's a guy that went in there, rolled his, sleeves up and started making things happen. And that's, it would be easy to stay in the bed, to watch Netflix, be debilitated by it. But, you have to have that optimism that you're better than that. And no matter what, you show up and you suit up, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. The hardest step is that first step. I know this sounds like so many, it's these tenets are true, and I believe in it. And you see from leadership throughout time, it starts with that.
Yeah. That's great. So hopefully that was enough time to segue from his vision. So now, what's your vision for your life? Same thing, combination, personal, professional, really doesn't matter. What's kind of that most important that you're trying to work towards?
I've been reading a lot about stoicism and trying to grasp some of those tenets, and they're so true. That is the battle that's me. I don't know that I will ever be satisfied. I don't know that I'll ever be just exactly comfortable with what's going on, but it is, I think honestly, I'm addicted to the struggle. And I do want to continue to grind and move on and continue to work and progress. And, and I do love that. And no matter what, I don't think that'll ever come out. I don't dream of like retirement. I don't dream of not working. I enjoy it. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy putting things together. I love efficiency. That to me is like, I think probably that's the benchmark. I love it when things are running smoothly and that you're being efficient, but also when it starts to fall apart, I enjoy I enjoy my back being against the wall and fighting to fix it. And whether it's causes within the community to my own personal business, I mean, it's part of that grind and that rush that I love.
There's something incredibly attractive about chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, the rush of being able to go in and fix it. There are people that are standing around that are looking for reasons to say no. And because of them, I will always continue to thrive because I'm the guy that's there that wants to figure out a way to make it happen. I'm about the culture of yes.
You're solving those problems.
I hope. I mean, and if not, motivating others to get involved or get into it and try to do it with limited resources, limited time, and sometimes you just got to get started.
Yeah. Building off of that vision, and I think with the three of us, we've done a pretty good job already of talking about different versions of success. But if you were to define success in your life, what does that look like?
In that idealistic approach, it'd just be freedom. I don't want to take over the world. I don't want, I don't think the money part of it is anything for me, but it's being able to just have freedom to do what I want with who I want, when I want, and be able to, apply those same things to my own family. And mostly I think success is raising my kids, actually putting out a great product there to where when people meet them, they say, wow, your kid is respectful, has good manners, works hard. That's your work.
All right, last few we're gonna kind of get. I say we're gonna get philosophical. We've already been leaning that way. So Michael, if you had a business, somebody that was trying to get into business that you were mentoring, what would be those one or two most important points that you would try and get across, the lessons that you try and get across to them?
It's easier than you think.
Okay.
We overcomplicate business all the time. All the time we overcomplicate it. It's easier than you think. And I'll get into that in just a second. But nothing ever will replace hard work. Ever. You can't. If you're not willing to put the work into it and understand that those demands will change, that there will be days that you'll work 24 hours a day. If you're not ready to do that, then you're not ready to be in business. And then that's the truth of it. Yep. If you're not ready for your family to suffer at some point, then you're not ready for what it's going to take. But it's not more complicated than some sort of basic things. I'll give you an example. There's plenty of them in this. One of my first questions to anybody I walk up on the street and know is, "Hey, how's business?" Right? He's tired of hearing it. We talk every day in this. How's business? How's the weekend? Right? I'll ask how traffic was, so on and so forth. And occasionally I'll run across right now in a good economy. Everybody says it's good. We have great, yada yada. But occasionally I'll run into the person who says, "Well, it's not great." Why? Well, I don't know. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? And it's not much harder. And you take this one instance where they said, "Well, a lot more of I've got more competition in town." Right. So what are they doing that you're not and should be doing? Or what are you doing that you shouldn't be doing that they aren't? It's pretty easy. Right? Now you've got to put the time in to find out. You've got to go do this kind of stuff. But it's not extraordinarily complicated, right? Unless you allow it to be. So try to take things down. Again, it's back to what I said before about my life, just being able to pull in the linchpin, the pivot point of well, this is what I should have to do. It's the people that don't understand that to a reasonable extent, a business is in many similarities is how we define scientifically a living organism versus a non, right? There are 6 processes of life. That's how we use to classify something as living versus non-living. And one of those things is, and the thing that I often see missing is the ability to adapt to outside change. Right? That's something you do and you don't even realize it, or we all do, and you don't realize it. When it's hot, we sweat. That's the ability to adapt to outside change. In the business world, we have to do the same thing. You've got to, what's the new trend? What's the new thing? Is it Amazon? Is it social media for marketing as opposed to more traditional print marketing, which I'm here to tell you is not dead. If you're not reacting to it, then you're not living anymore. If you're not living anymore as a business, you're dead. You're dead. It's not usually any more complicated than some simple principles. Learn those principles and then have the drive, have the commitment to live to those principles, even when it's hard.
That's great. Let's go to you now. You have a different type of perspective with this question, right? Because you grew up with your father running a business. You saw it from the beginning of the struggles and opportunities of being a business owner. Somebody starting a business today, what are those one or two lessons that you would try and get across?
Well, first of all, it would depend upon the type of business, but I'd say probably the most important thing is the understanding of what social media is becoming and what it is, what it has become and what it is becoming. You really got to have a grasp on that. And things are changing. They're even evolving right now as we speak. All of this it's changing. And it's a good thing. Once again, I mean, when your 8-year-old daughter is talking on YouTube about her own merch, what does that mean? What does that mean about the products that we buy? What does that mean about the way that we consume things? And what does that mean for the future? And I think most things, if not all, need to be tooled toward that. Right now, we as a society, as a country, we're looking for distraction. And I think that not only for goods and services or whatever, but we're looking for distraction. You look at the hours that people are spending on YouTube, on Netflix, all these things, they're looking for content. And if you're not somehow building some type of content or brand or something that's going toward that, I think you're headed in the wrong direction. And there's ways to monetize that. And how does that work toward the tipping point of what you're doing for your brand? You yourself, even with your podcast here, you're building the brand you.
Right.
And there's a way to make this monetize. And there is an 8-year-old child at my house that has, whether she knows it or not, she's figured that out. So what does that mean moving forward? What does that mean for retail? What does that mean for bricks and mortar? What does that mean for wholesale? And so if you're not skating to where the puck's going to be, you're going to be left behind. We figured some of that out, and I'm going through the growing pains of that right now. In fact, it's sort of hard. It's hard to even explain it to your banker. Seriously, these guys, they live and die by numbers and spreadsheets. So you have to explain that. Think about Bezos. It was just this year he finally got into the black, and now look at it. So there, and there's it's going to shift beyond that. You're even starting to see the pushback with Amazon. So these are the things I think that people really need to study and start to look at and look where the curve's headed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. And you think about how dynamic it is.
Too.
It's huge. And you listen to guys like Gary Vee. These are the folks that are on the cutting edge of what's going on in social media and how we are consuming things. And he'll tell you right now too that he's not sure where it's going. And so within all that chaos and the dynamics of all that, there's a lot of opportunity. And it's, and we as leaders, it's hard to explain it to some folks, but it's coming.
Yeah. Well, in 10, 15 years from now, it's going to be the same as everything, right? We're going to be able to look back and it's going to be obvious that X happened, right? But that's all hindsight. In the moment, it's what are these guesses that we can do that are educated, right? We look into the opportunities and you try different things and you figure out what works. And,
Yeah, that's right.
and it's not the same thing for everybody, right? Some people are better at writing versus being on video, so maybe that's their form of content. But doing something where they're using social media, creating content, stuff like that is going to be a staple for businesses.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So, all right, last two questions. It's going to be for each of you, and whoever wants to jump in first can. What is one thing that's going on in this world right now that you would want to change and why?
I just talked.
So if I get one wish, is that it?
Sure. Yeah, you can look at it.
I'd like more wishes. That would be my wish. No,
Well played.
Yeah.
thank you.
Well played.
One thing I can change in the world. That's okay. I would like that everybody realize that the first inclination of anything good or bad is introspective. If something bad's going in your life, you look inside of what needs to change to make a change to the positive. Or if there's something positive going on, you're introspective on how you can get involved to go help that thing if the cause is worthy, rather than what I see, which is a focus on externalities. There's far too much focus on externalities, in my opinion. We're obsessed almost at identifying these things that are outside that made this happen. We're so interested in identifying the enemy and calling it the enemy. We're so interested in doing that and take any political, non-political issue of the day, and you will not have a hard time finding somebody who's got somebody else to blame for it.
Yeah.
Right? And we've lost that ability to, again, to go back to that business sense of, well, my business is not doing so great. You're the owner of this business. Well, why? Well, because that restaurant across the street's right across from mine. That's not it. That's a total lack of introspective. Why are they doing so well and you're not? You're both on the same street. You're both in the same business. He's got a new hot shot chef. Well, go get a hot shot chef. And guess what? You own the business. You get to make that decision. We and our actions every day will do far more to decide what happens in our life than any externality that exists. Right? If you are brought up in austere circumstances, you can work out of it. You can. No one else can do it for you. It's impossible. No one's going to lift you out of anything. They can help from time to time, but the core driver is you. Powerful thing in this world is yourself. If you know how to accord yourself for improvement, and stop looking for the enemy, stop looking for the blame. And there's no one political party or ideology that does that. Everybody does it, and we're getting more and more to that in society. Who do we blame for this thing? Who can we hate? Who can we attack? Who can we lob things at? Rather than saying, what could we do to actually change it ourselves?
Well, because then you don't have to take responsibility if you can blame somebody else.
With responsibility comes accountability, and accountable is what nobody wants to exist.
God, I love you.
Oh, this got awful quick.
What are your thoughts on that?
Top that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You deferred the questions.
No,
Be introspective about
I think he's exactly right. I had a good friend message me this morning, or at least I thought he was a good friend. He messaged me this morning about a stance that, someone that I supported had taken, and the guy just went out of his way to send me a text message this morning about how his wife was going to have to go, to Atlanta to battle this because of a person that I supported. And I sat there reading that. And this is a person that I respect too, and it's it is that tribalism. It's that sort of, and it's fear based. Things that I think is what is driving a lot of the stuff that I think a lot of us are tired of hearing about or seeing that's going on in our country. It's the tribalism. It's the it's all that's being wedged in between Americans right now. And I wish we all could just take a big deep breath, step back, and see exactly what brings us together instead of what divides us. And you know, and I hate to say that I don't see it changing anytime soon. The way that we the stuff that we're consuming from media to whatever, it's I think it's programmed that way, and I think that that's why it's if you're asking me, you know, what would I do? I'd say, man, you know, start tuning into the things that do matter. Start being positive about the things that you can change, the stuff that you can get involved with, and you know, and God, I know it feels like a tsunami of just being overwhelmed with so much, you know, that's against you. But just start with, like I said, showing up, taking that first step, and it'll make you feel better about things. God, you know, turn the damn TV off if you need to. You know, if it's too much for you, turn it off, and go out and mentor, or you know, start a business, or do whatever you want to do. Do whatever, get up and do it. But I think that I'm really perplexed with so much of this voice right now of fighting for people. You hear about, hey, I'm going to go fight for you because I will be this voice for you because these other people don't care about you. I think leadership now is going to be more about, hey, you know, how do you get people to understand what's in it for them? Why does this other person also matter and their ideas, and how can you bring people to the table to not just parrot consensus, but to help build consensus in a way that, you know, both parties leave the table pissed off. You know, and after all, and I'm not talking about a big kumbaya moment, but I'm talking about an age of just being able to work through things in a way that, you know, is best for the common good. And we're going to come to it. And there's a lot of those voices out there. You don't hear them as much on Main Street, but they're out there. And you know, you really, I think too, in this day and age, you got to dig deeper. You got to understand the people that are telling you things. What's in it for them? Why are they spinning this way, or what is skewed that way? You know, go in and look into those issues a little bit deeper and see what that counter voice is, or what, you know, what's going on there. And that, to me, I think that especially in this information age, it's very dynamic and it's neat.
Okay, we're going to finish up last question here. We're sitting here 3 years from now having a conversation. What happened in that period in your life where you can look back and say that was a successful point in your life?
You go first.
You learned the first time. What happened in what happened in 3 years? In 3 years, both of my children started kindergarten, and hopefully music in some way. Some of today's problems won't be as bad as they are now in 3 years because of a commitment to work on them and make them better. I'll still have the same friends 3 years from now that I have today. That would be a huge success to me. That all my family is the same, no one died. But all my friends, who, it's a choice, right? Who your friends are, that's a choice. We'll all be the same, and there'll only be a few new ones.
Sure. 3 years from now for you.
Oh God. You know, once again, my kids, my wife, they're still putting up with me. And you know, just evolving, and I'm pretty happy. You know, there's challenges in business, there's challenges in all these things, but to actually be involved in it, yeah, you know, you think about it, we got a lot to be grateful for. Like, we're here every day. This side of the dirt is like a victory. There's a lot of people who did not wake up this morning. You know,
Yep.
and like Michael was saying a little while ago, we got self-determination. You understand that if you put up and you show up, you put up, you suit up, you got an opportunity today. You're in the game, and you got to be in the game to be dealt an ace. And that, to me, is just awesome. So 3 years from now, I hope to be grinding the same way.
I love it. It's great. That's a good way to finish this too. So where can people go to learn more about you guys, learn more about the city, learn more about the business, things like that?
Google.
Well, that's,
Super good
that's a great
resource.
start.
24estyle.com. Also, have started a new thing that's interesting that you'll be hearing more about soon. It's called the Georgians First Commission. We are a commission of 18 people that are going to be working with the state in order to make Georgia the #1 state in which to do small business.
Okay.
Love to hear from anyone. My email is ruel@24estyle.com, 24estyle, style.com. And, you know, if you've got any type of recommendations or things that you want to hear about or what's important to you, that's important to me. So I'd love to hear from you and look forward to talking to you again, especially in 3 years.
That's right. That sounds good. What about you?
TourismLeadershipCouncil.com is our organizational website, GeorgiaTravelAssociation.com. My email is michael@TourismLeadershipCouncil.com. If you ever want to reach out to me, if it's an emergency, dial 911.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Absolutely.
Good to meet you.
You too.